Good morning, friends. Today, in this lecture number 22, we are going to study in detail the literary terms known as technique and style. Dear friends, we have many times heard about technique, or we can say this style. These two literary terms are going to discuss today. And we have seen that most of the writers, particularly poets, use so many techniques which are known as devices, are also known as style. There is a little difference between technique and style, but most of the time both are considered as the same, because when we talk about the style, we will simply say style of the writing, maybe simple style, or we can say the style which uses the various techniques. So, in the technique or in the style, a writer uses so many techniques. So, technique and style are the interconnected, interdependent ideas or terms. Most of the time, this technique and style are very well associated with the writing of the poet, the language which they choose, the techniques which they follow, the style which they prefer are very well, we can say, interconnected with each other. So, when we go through any literary piece, though it may be prose, poetry, novel and play, we will come across the writing fully highlights the style of the writer that he uses in his literary pieces, and that style means, we can say, the writer uses in his style the various devices, and that devices means the techniques. For example, the writer uses the figure of speeches, rhyme, rhythm, meter, paradox, personification, exaggeration, alliteration, simile are such examples of figure of speech. And also in their technique, means in their style, they also prefer to use the devices like satire, symbol, metaphor, dramatic monologue, and so on. So this style of the writer which he chooses, in it include the particular devices which are known as the techniques. And the purpose of the use of such techniques in literature is to reveal, to highlight, to expose the maximum ideas, to enhance the meaning or to expand the ideas, and to attract the readers, to engage the readers in their particular creative ideas. So this particular technique is used in literature as, we can say, literary technique are specific, means the particular uses of these techniques are specific. Deliberately means Ramur Buzur, these writers use the techniques which are constructive, and also which talks about the language that the author uses to convey the meaning of his ideas, to represent its ideas in a detailed way, or to convey his inner hidden thoughts through that language, through that techniques, through that style. in which or through which he uses these techniques. Then, so the author's use of literary technique usually occurs with a single word, phrases, or a particular group of words, or the single idea which revolves around the text. So, single word, phrase, group of words also highlights that particular technique the writer used. And these particular structures, what I said you, the literary devices, literary techniques uses the structures usually word, phrases, figure of speech that the writer employ to represent his artistic ideas. At the same time, when we talk about these literary devices, words, phrases, figure of speech, we will come across the literary words or techniques like metaphor, simile, alliteration, hyperbole. Again, we can simply say allegories, satires, symbols, and so on. So, this particular literary technique, when we think about in detail about this literary technique, we will come across the techniques like we have, for example, literary techniques like imagery, simile, hyperbole, personification, alliteration, allegory, irony, and so on. These are some literary techniques or which are known as figure of speech the writer used. Besides this, also the writer used the rhyme, rhythm, pattern also to use their parental or traditional techniques in poetry, particularly which follow the traditional touch and which has that pattern. So when we go through this, what is meant by imagery, simile, hyperbole, personification, alliteration, allegory, irony, we will come to know that these are figure of speech. Imagery, it is the use of figurative language to create visual representations of actions, objects, and ideas in our minds, which appear to our physical senses. Hence, it is in short, this particular imagery is a figure of speech or figurative language which represents visual ideas, situations, conditions, incidents to appear in our mind or physical senses. For example, the room was dark and gloomy. The dark and gloomy atmosphere or world shows us such visual images. When we say the room is very dark, the same time we will imagine the darkness, so that visual imagery. The river was roaring in the mountains. The roaring appeals to our senses means hearing. The river was roaring in the mountains means that we hear. So this way, these are the, we can say, technique the writers use. Besides that, we have simile is also one figure of speech. Simile is also one figure of speech the poet uses to compare and distinct objects and draw similarity between them. The difference in simile uses as or like the metaphor does. For example, my love is like a red rose. That simile म्हणजे simile म्हणजे उपमा देणे, एकाद्याशी तुलना करणे. His love is like a red rose means his love is like a red rose. So this is a red rose is a simile used. Again we have the examples like hyperbole is also a figure of speech which deliberate exaggeration of actions and ideas for the sake of emphasis. Exaggeration म्हणजे एखादी गोष्ट जास्तीत जास्त करून सांगणे. Exaggeration म्हणजे अतिरेक, अतिशयोक्ती. And for example, your bag weighs a ton, or I have got a million issues of book of the. Your bag has 1 ton of weight. Means तुझ्या बॅगचं वजन 1 टन आहे म्हणजे किती 1000 किलो. So this way, my dear friends, exaggeration is my love is, we can say I will love you till the seas can dry. मी कधी प्रेम करेल जोपर्यंत समुद्र कोरडा होईल. Means and I will continue my love like sand of time. And this way, these are the examples of exaggeration we will take those. Then we have the personification. Personification, it gives a thing, an idea, or animal human qualities. Means it is compared with the animal qualities. Means एखाद्याला दुसऱ्याच्या सोबत आपण काय करतो तुलना करून जाणीव करून देणे. Means we have animal form is an ideal example of personification. The human beings are compared with animals, and animals' nature is like man one. The flowers are dancing beside the lake. Means एखाद्या निसर्गातील एलिमेंटला माणसासोबत तुलना करणे. Means flowers are dancing, the branches of the trees are making noise. Means only it is said that dancing, making noise are the concept related to man only. Then the human nature's qualities, when we compare with animals or nature elements, then it is called personification. Here you see my dear car, she is a real beauty. She is a real beauty means car is considered with woman or like woman. ती कार सुंदर आहे, माझी कार सुंदर आहे. Look at that car, it is very beautiful. So we simply say handsome, beautiful. We use for human being, but at the same time we use this also for objects. So this is about the, we can say, personification. And when we talk about this literary term, alliteration, it is also a technique that the writers use in their literary pieces. It refers to the same consonant sounds in words coming together. For example, alliteration म्हणजे आवाज आहे त्याचे. For example, better, butter always makes the better better. Means the same consonant sound, spelling is different but the sound is the same. So alliteration. She says, she says, she says. For example, she says, S-E-L-L-S or S-E-A-S-H-E-L-L-S, she says or she says. The similar sound, the spelling is the different, meaning is also different, but the alliteration gives the same sound. So then we have allegory. We have also discussed the literary term allegory by taking the examples of Jonathan Swift's Better Books, by taking the allegory of the ant spider. It is a literary term or figure of speech or the literary technique which an abstract idea is given in a form of characters, actions or events. Means it is an abstract idea given in a form of characters. The character सोबत एखादी idea. Suppose how brilliant is he? तो किती हुशार आहे? So he is brilliant, scholarship, his quality, superiority. We compare the abstract idea by comparing it with the other objects. So ancient poets are considered as a superior poet and they are compared with the bee. So this way, this is little bit about the abstract idea is given a form of character action to reveal the information. Or also we have seen that irony, parody, these are some literary techniques which are completely opposite to their literal meaning. For example, the bread is soft as a stone. The bread is soft as a stone means in reality the bread is hard. So nice of you to break my new yeast. This way, you are very ugly, you are very rude. that you have break my so and so elements. So this way, this particular literary techniques, these are meant beside that we can also use style, symbol, metaphor, imagery. So there are so many literary techniques these writers use in their, we can take in their literary pieces. So when we talk about this function of literary technique, we simply say literary devices or literary techniques are a collection of universal artistic structures. These are known as universal artistic structures. The writers uses in their writing. It is a universal one that are so typical of all works of literature frequently employed by the writers to give meanings and the logical framework. Universal artistic structures used in the writing by writers to give meaning to their text, to give meaning, they are used globally or universally. When such works are read by readers, they ultimately recognize and appreciate them, because when the readers go through these styles and literary techniques and their respective use to give the detailed meaning of the text, to compare with someone, to give its more emphasis, to highlight it, to give its clear-cut idea, the writer use such techniques. It is a universal form, universal reality, and so the readers get interest in it and so they go deep into the text and take interest. So recognize and appreciate them by such scholarly use of the writers, the techniques and style, because of their universality. Means the use of such techniques which are universal artistic structures and form, because of their universality, they also allow the readers to compare a work of one writer to that of other to determine its value and worth. So, as because there is also, we can say, the appreciation of the poets, their merit also proves by the use of such literary techniques and styles which they use in their literary work. And so, when the readers compares this with the other writers, then automatically the superiority and merit of the writer proves. So, they not only beautify the piece of literature by the use of these technique and styles, but also give deeper meaning to it. Means not only use the beauty of piece, means not only they add or make the text beautiful, but also add the deeper meaning to it. And besides, they help motivating readers' imagination to visualize the characters and scenes more clearly. So, in short, these literary techniques, the particular styles of writing that the writer use in their writing is a universal artistic structure, and most of the writers use it to give the meaning to their text. These particular literary techniques not only add the beauty to the text but also gives it the deeper meaning. The readers also very well attracted by the scholarship of the writer by the uses of these techniques, and so they are also attracted to the text and also appreciate it in a larger manner. And as a universal forms, these literary techniques and styles, these writers also compare one with the other one, and they will easily find the scholarship and merit of the writers by the use of these techniques. And by such use of this, in short, we will come to know the clear-cut idea of the text, maybe by the use of such figure of speech, allegory, imagery, simile, personification, metaphors, symbol, and so on. They give us a detailed information of the text, meaning to the text, and also we will come to know the particular superiority and merit of the poet, and also the interest in the text. So with this brief information about the technique and style, I stop here. Thank you. Thank you very much. Tomorrow in lecture number 23, the last lecture, we will discuss the term personification, and also in short we will revise the syllabus. So with this I stop here. Thank you very much.